The lab that we're doing today is called the 1878 Eclipse Lab, and it actually goes back to 1878. There was a total solar eclipse visible from Texas. Not only was it visible from Texas, it was visible from Fort Worth. And so in our library, there's actually this photograph right here. And the photograph shows these people setting up just on the outskirts of Fort Worth with their telescopes and spectrographs and other instruments to observe an eclipse. And so this eclipse was actually visible and was the very first professional astronomical observations in Texas. We had astronomers that came from Yale and Princeton to Texas to Fort Worth to set up telescopes, and this was one of the very first scientific measurements, professional scientific things done in Texas too. And so what they did was they were studying the moon, and they were studying the sun, and they were studying the sky near the sun, because when you blot out the sun, the sky gets a little bit darker, and you see other sort of things up there. And so this was real science being done in Fort Worth, Texas. And the thing is, this eclipse, we can simulate what was seen using stellarium. And so that's what we're going to be doing. So the lab exercise that you have here, you'll set stellarium for El Paso. Actually, you'll set it for Fort Worth first, and then you'll see what happens. You know about the times. The P1 is when the eclipse first starts, and U1 is when the totality first starts. Okay, and so U1 is when the totality first starts, and then then we have U4, which is when the totality ends, and then P4 when the entire thing is over. So you remember that from the lectures when I talked about eclipses. Then what you're going to do is you're going to set it for El Paso. And so when you reset for El Paso, you're going to notice, oh, wait, in El Paso, it was not actually visible. And so what you want to do is you want to recreate on a map of Texas those eclipse sort of things that you saw happen with the tracks that you saw with the NASA documents. So what you would do is you would say, okay, for Fort Worth, you'll mark that like green. Hey, there was an eclipse. The total eclipse was there. El Paso, no total eclipse. Then what you're going to do is you're going to set your stellarium for different places. You might try, for example, Amarillo and find, oh wait, there's nothing there. And then you might try San Angelo and find nothing there. And then you might try, Laredo or something and see if there's something there and whatnot. But yeah, hey, you might find something there, but you might not find anything, or you might not find anything there. So you'll mark it depending on whether you see something or not. You might not find there, but you might find it's an eclipse there. You might find it's an eclipse in Wichita Falls. You might find it's an eclipse in San Antonio. It might be an eclipse in Austin. It might be. This is not correct. I'm not picking the correct things here. So you try different cities and towns, and then you say, oh, but it's not an eclipse here, and it's not an eclipse there, but it is an eclipse there, and it's not an eclipse there, it's not an eclipse there, not an eclipse there. And so what you have is you have kind of marked off a region on here where the eclipse was visible. So it's visible there. So in this area it's visible, and out here on the outsides it's not visible. Okay, now again, this is not at all what you're going to get. That's not the path of this eclipse. Absolutely, that's not the way that it is. Okay, but this is the kind of thing that you're going to be doing in this lab. Is you're going to be using that map setting stellarium and going backwards and forwards in time a little bit to see is the eclipse visible there or not. Okay, if it's partial eclipse, then that doesn't count. I want to know, is it a total eclipse or not? If it's a total eclipse, then mark it a color on the map. Okay, if it's not a total eclipse, then mark it a different color. And then after you've done this enough, you'll start seeing this pattern of this strip running across Texas and maybe even Oklahoma and New Mexico where it was a total eclipse. And so that's what you want to do, is figure out the strip across Texas that it was a total eclipse. And so that's making those one of those little maps like they did with the NASA maps that I uploaded on the eclipse lectures. And so this is the whole point of this lab, reproduce that sort of thing on here. Then what you'll do is you will mark this on your map and then scan it and upload it. And so this is the idea of the lab. So.